welcome to the Miami Heat Zone podcast. We're pushing to 6,000 subscribers. Make sure that you guys hit that subscribe button, and thank you for all the support. So today we have Ray from Playback. Guys, make sure that you guys go check out, his spaces every single game. So Ray, can you just plug yourself and let the people know where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find us at PlaybookSN for the spaces. A lot of Miami Heat basketball content. If you like Florida Panthers, we cover those too. Miami Dolphins, the Miami Marlins. Good Lord, I couldn't get that one out. And if I don't say that we don't cover FGCU, then Jordan will get mad at me. So we cover them as well. If you like to gamble, find us at PlaybookSN Bets. We had a lot of fun stuff going on over there. We love the goalie saves market with our Betalytics sponsor. So it's been a fun time over there.
So especially in the spaces, we always hear from everybody else. But, what do you think about the whole Jimmy Butler trade and how everything went down? And just getting Andrew Wiggins, Davion Mitchell, and Kyle Anderson.
So first things first, 2 years ago when Kevin Durant became available from the Nets, the very first thing I said was trade Jimmy Butler for Kevin Durant straight up. A lot of people threw tomatoes at me and told me that I was goofy. I didn't know what I was talking about, but I understood back then that we were going to end up in some type of situation like this, or at least at the bare minimum, I didn't want to end up in a situation like this. So to go ahead and trade Jimmy then prevented the situation that we were in now happening. So that happens. Obviously, there's a lot of theories as to what happened with Jimmy. Obviously, for me personally, I like Jimmy Butler. He saved us from a real dark time, especially after the Hassan Whiteside and the Tyler Johnson and the James Johnson contracts. He gave us a lot of fantastic memories. 58 points in the playoffs is something that I will never, 56, 58, never forget that in the playoffs. But I think he kind of like nailed it when he said, it didn't work out the way, like it didn't end the way that everybody wanted it to. It just didn't. Whether you like agree with what happened or whether you take Jimmy's side or you take Pat's side, it doesn't matter. It just didn't end the way we wanted it to. And obviously he's gone off to brighter pastures, greener pastures, I guess you can call it. What he's with the Warriors, they're 7-2, 8-2, something like that since the trade. Obviously, we've gone in a completely different direction win-wise. But I mean, I like Davion Mitchell. I like Andrew Wiggins. I know there were a lot of people that weren't really excited for Kyle Anderson when we were going to keep him. But honestly, I think that all three of those additions, they kind of fit better. And I've talked about this a few times where I've said, look, Jimmy Butler is such an amazing player that when I make this statement, it kind of sounds wrong. But I think that Andrew Wiggins and Davion Mitchell, and not necessarily Kyle Anderson, he's more of an extra piece. But those two guys, I think they fit what the Miami Heat are like, what they want with their roster construction. I think they fit better. That's not to say, oh, we're better with those two guys. I mean, obviously, the record right now shows we are not better with those two guys. But you had a guy like Jimmy Butler who occupied basically the exact same space that Bam Adebayo operated in. And that's something for the past couple of years I've always said has been one of the reasons Bam hasn't been able to flourish. Especially knowing that Jimmy was one of those guys that never really wanted to take a whole lot of threes, especially with the style of play that he had. So when you add a guy like Andrew Wiggins, who's basically going to say, yeah, I'll cut to the rim, I'll drive, I'll do the post-up stuff, but I'll actually go out and I'll space the floor for you guys. You add a guy like Davion Mitchell, who actually is somewhat of a point guard. He is more of a defensive-minded two-way guard, but he has the ability to actually play a little bit of the point guard. He can make the simple passes that we haven't really seen a point guard for the Miami Heat since, first year Kyle was able to make. So like it's definitely been different, and obviously it's not the results that we've wanted, but there's been times, at least when everybody plays, when Davion's available and Wiggins is available, Bam, Kalel, because also the injury bug has really whipped our ass in the past couple weeks. But like when all those guys play, it looks a lot better. It looks a lot more fluid. They still have those gaps or those just mental gaps where they just kind of, let the lead go. That's what they've had a lot of problems with this season. But it looks a little bit more smooth. It looks a little bit better with those guys. So I was never mad that, Jimmy got traded in this manner. Obviously, you kind of wish it would have been a little bit more. But I think at least with Davion Mitchell and Andrew Wiggins, those are pieces that the Heat will hold going forward. Maybe if they use them in trade packages later on. But in terms of fit for the Miami Heat, I thought that those guys that they brought in were fantastic.
So where do you stand with Eric Spoelstra? Because there's a lot of people that have been cooking him all season with his rotations, Don't get me wrong. Do we always give Eric Spoelstra the best players? No. But in terms of him just not playing the right players, taking people out, not putting the right player in, sticking with Terry Rozier so long, I just honestly think there's probably a solid 10 games that you could possibly blame on Eric Spoelstra. There's even some people, they want him fired. They think he's washed. They think he's old school. What do you think about Eric Spoelstra this season and the Miami Heat struggles, especially about the offense? I say that because we're going to be in the play-in tournament for the third season in a row. We can't score, pretty much around 90 points, and we're pretty much capped there. And then also too, you have these third quarters where they're blowing leads and they're pretty much throwing away the whole game. When this is season after season after season, obviously you can look at the players, but then at the same time you're going to look at the coach. So what do you think about Eric Spoelstra? Not only just this season, but the blown leads, the bad rotations. What do you think about Eric Spoelstra this season?
So I watched Spo be our coach for what, 15, 16 years. It's been a while. I've been watching basketball since I was 11, and I'll be 32 in May. 32, right? See, I'm old enough that I start to forget how old I am. But I would be insane to tell anybody that this is not one of the worst, like to not say this is not one of the worst years that Spo's ever had. Like this has been, like, just from his standards, like beyond below average. I think one of the biggest things for me throughout the season, um, because look, the Terry Rozier thing, I had somebody explain it to me where they basically were like, look, understandably he's bad, but they have to fill some of these roles, and some of the guys on the roster cannot fill that role. And I understood that. So, like, yeah, you need a ball handler, you need a guy that will at least try to cut to the rim, can get there. And I understand that Terry filled those roles in an extent. That's kind of what Spo is, he was going with. But I think he he has a tendency to be real stubborn, and he has a tendency to like say, I'm gonna stick with this because I have to see for a fact that it just doesn't work. And I'm with you. Like I think you said there's like what, 10 games. I think there's people, I've even heard people say there's like 15, 20 games that you could realistically kind of point to Spo and be like, you had just as much to do with this as the rest of us. But also at the same time, it's like, look what the heck. Matter of fact, shout out to Royal A. Shepherd for this, because he's the one that said it to me. Look what he's dealt with. Look what he's got, especially post Jimmy. And it's like, what, you can only make a good meal out of the bullshit in your cabinet so many times before you just run out of ingredients. And he's run out of ingredients. Like even getting Andrew Wiggins and Davion Mitchell, like, and Kyle Anderson, like, there's only so much that you can really add for sustenance in these situations, and there's just not enough. So Spo's been bad because, like, at the beginning of the season, especially like the timeout, the Detroit timeout, not having it, that was the one where I was like, I've been upset with this team. I've been mad. I've let them get to me before, but that was one where it was like, not you. Like I watched everybody else do some stupid shit. I've seen everything go left and everything go down when it should go up and right. But you doing that was the one where I was like, all right, I think I understand what this season is really gonna be. And I tried to fight it off mentally and stuff like that, but all in all, like, he's had a bad season. He has. But that I'm not in the camp of fire Spo. I'm not in the camp of move Spo up, because people are entitled to bad years. And I think he was bad last year too, but like this is the one where it's like, all right, bro, like, I think he's kind of like resigned to, they're gonna be a playing team. We'll see what happens, but like, let's just hurry up and get this shit over with. Let's get to the off season and go from there. But Spo's had a bad year. I don't want to fire him. He's one of the top 10, 15 coaches in NBA history, and I think it would be completely asinine to say, oh, you're having a bad year and a half. All right, we're just going to lob you into the sun after, what, 2 championships, a 30-11 record, after, starting absolutely miserable one season with the things that he had. Like, there's a lot of stuff to look back on and say, all right, man, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, but he can't have this next year at most. I'll say that. But firing Spo, no. Bad year, yeah, totally.
That, and look, like, why did Spo really move towards this, 5 out offense when the Miami Heat do not have the personnel to fulfill that? So what I mean by that is, outside of Terry and Tyler and Duncan, who else is really going to shoot threes like that at an elite level to
Right.
play a 5 out offense? point exactly. That's why Jaime, he looks absolutely terrible. He can't shoot threes. I mean, I still think he has to work on his game and whatnot. But why also do you think Terry Rozier has not worked out? Because you can play bad, but there's games where you could probably even blame him for 20 games where he was absolutely horrendous. We traded for a Terry Rozier who was supposed to help this Miami Heat offense. I'm not saying he's supposed to be this Chris Paul point guard and completely change around the franchise. But for him to end the game sometimes with 2 points, to pretty much take, bad contested shots where he's putting himself, he's taking step backs into the defenders, all types of blowing layups. Like, what is going on with Terry Rozier?
Terry is one of those guys that, especially now, like I've gotten to really watch him over the past, I don't know, like 18-ish months or something like that, like last like 12 months. Like I think I understand now why Nick Harrison was actually like, no, don't do this. No, don't do this. And he probably should have spoke up more like they've since told him to. But he's just not, Terry's not the player they thought he was. Terry is not the type of player that saves your team. Terry's an empty calorie guy. I think wherever Daryl's at, he would call him an AAU player. And I don't necessarily want to insult him to that degree because when you make it to the league, you ain't no AAU player. But he's got a style of basketball that, just like with Wiggins and Davion Mitchell, that fits. Terry's doesn't. Like it's especially the fact that Terry's not he's not a pass first type of guard. He's a 6 foot tall shooting guard that just so happens to play the one for us because he's short. But like he's not a guy that facilitates in the manner. Even last year when we got him, and I think he had like a 4-to-1 assist ratio or whatever it was. It's like that was still kind of like bloated as teams tried to figure out what they were going to do with him, how the Heat were going to use him, and so on and so forth. But he's not. He's not. I hate saying it like this. He's not Kyle. He's not Goran. He's not those style of guys where like I can get, some facilitation out of you. I can get. Terry's the type of guy that says I'm gonna get my dribbles in and I'm gonna put these shots up. And if they go in, great, awesome. We might have a chance to win the game. If not, well, Terry's gonna dribble the Earth's axis off 4 degrees, and we're gonna experience crazy winters and springs and shit. So that's really how I feel about Terry. It's just something that did not work out. And they were wrong about it, bar none.
Now we are going into the youth movement. We have Khalil Ware, Jovic, Jaime, which I'm not really the biggest, Jovic fan. I don't think they use him the right way. And I think that's a huge problem. And not only is he inconsistent, so there's a lot of different things that we have to look to going forward. Even Tyler Hero, he was an all-star this season, but there's still a lot of people that want him gone. They want him shipped out. So with Bam Adebayo turning 27, we can't sit here and waste his prime. And I know a lot of people want to get on him for not being this number one scoring option, which I don't think he necessarily needs to be. I think that Bam Adebayo, he continues to get disrespected every single season only because he's the most consistent player year in, year out, and he's doing everything, guarding 1 through 5, scoring, rebounding, defending. He covers up so much that does not even show in the box score. So obviously, Bam isn't going anywhere. I think that Khalil Ware helps to unlock Bam in terms of being freer out on the court. He doesn't have to worry about everything. And I think that with, time and with the weight room, Khalil Ware will even get better. But how do you structure this team going forward, especially how you don't have a clear-cut number one option? Should they keep Wiggins? We're hearing all these rumors about Trae Young. Kevin Durant will be traded this coming season. He is older. There's a lot of people, they're not, too thrilled about taking on a younger Kevin Durant. Then we're hearing that, LaMelo Ball could be out there. There's just so many different avenues. But I just think that the biggest thing is the Miami Heat need to figure out what are they going to do with certain players. You know what I mean? And where do you see this young core going forward?
I mean, Jovic is one of those guys that, what is he? He's 21 years old. When we got him, he was 19. He literally hadn't even finished high school yet. And then, like, I think over the next 2 years, he's taken steps to be a guy that when I watch him, I'm like, yeah, you're gonna have a long and prosperous NBA career. I don't think he's gonna be an all-star or anything, but he'll be a fantastic role player. I'm sure there will be teams that are contenders in the next 5 to 6 years that will at least make phone calls and ask about Nikola Jovic wherever he's at. Unfortunately, the hand thing was kind of crappy. I'm one of those guys, especially that like if it's your hand or like your feet with one of those small bones and stuff like that, that's the type of stuff that worries me because then it messes with your mobility a little bit, stuff like that. But I'm kind of with you in terms of like they don't use him the right way. I think he needs to be more of a guy that operates more on ball. I like the fact that he can stretch the floor. I think I bet on this dude all last year and from the first half of the season is over 1.5 threes. And that was something that I made a lot of money. I paid my rent doing this, guys. So he does a lot for the team. And I think that if he manages to make it back, if we run into the play in, he'll have a solid little run. But even so, like I think he's a guy that kind of sticks around. Jaime's more of one of those guys where it's like, look, you basically we drafted him NBA ready, and he was. Granted, it didn't take long for teams to figure out like, okay, he's got like two things that he does, and if we can stop that, then oh well, so be it. Like we're fine. But I do think he'll have to spend another season like trying to figure out how to stretch the floor, try to be a reliable 3-point shooter. He doesn't have to be a 38, 39%, a 40% guy, but I don't think he can be 22, 23% and make it in this league. Also, at the same time, he's going to have to develop something other than spin to the right once you get to the rim because he's shown that he's got the ability to get there, especially against smaller guys. He can attack a mismatch. I don't think he's an unintelligent player. I think he's actually kind of smart, but you just got to have more in today's NBA, and he's only got a minimal bag. Guys like Pell Larson, some of the younger guys that are in the G League and stuff like that, Kashad Johnson and Isaiah Stevens and stuff. I don't know about those guys. Obviously, to your point where you talked about, there's a lot of guys, that, especially in this summer, that are probably going to be coming available. They talked about Kevin Durant. Um, I think that you could at least take a swing at KD, even if he's 38 years old. I mean, he's one of the top 10 NBA players in basketball history. And there's a couple of guys that are just like, yeah, we don't really care about father time. We might slow down a little bit. We might not be as efficient defensively and stuff like that, but we'll still give you buckets. Um, you know, Bron's one of those guys. KD's one of those guys. Steph, even as, he's getting a little bit older, he's one of those guys I can still give you these buckets. So if they traded for KD, I wouldn't be mad at it. I wish they would have done it 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, but okay, fine. Like Bam, KD, and if you trade Tyler, fine. If you trade Wiggins, fine. But like a combination of those three guys is enough at least next year to make you competitive, which I know is what the Heat want. I personally would like for them to sit and wait on a guy like Giannis to come available because it kind of seems like as the Bucks move forward with whatever this is he's not necessarily the happiest with it. Now that's not to say that shit can't change. He's still got Damian Lillard. That's a team that can go on a run and make something happen. But a guy like him or a guy like Ant, where you're kind of watching like what everybody thought was going to be like a team that was going to hang out for a while, is starting to suddenly be like I don't know if this is going to last forever. And this is also an NBA where um, they say they don't want players to move, and they say they want guys to stay where they're at, but guys are fixing to start moving again because the way that CBA was set up and the way that teams are kind of scared and nervous about paying this cap and stuff, there will be guys that go to different organizations where they had no idea that they were going, whether they like it or not. And I do think that the Heat casually positioning themselves over the past couple months by not saying we're not paying Jimmy, knowing that this will interfere with 2026, trying to collect back a pick, knowing that they screwed up with the Terry Rozier thing with the Warriors. Like I'm fine with whatever the Heat are fixing to do because I don't feel like the Heat are a rudderless ship. Like they have a direction, they've stuck like the whole time they have stuck to it. They said we have a dual build, we will move from the dual build to the Tyler and Bam build, and then we'll go from there. So I'm not tripped out. I don't think that they're going to be doing anything wrong. Um, but they're just gonna have to have a little bit of luck on their side. But as for the youth and stuff like that, I don't mind Jovic. Jaime's gonna have to figure it out somewhere in the offseason. Uh, Davion, I think he's 24, 25, something like that. I'd love to resign him like in the offseason. I don't want him going anywhere, whether he's a backup or a starter. It does not matter to me. Resign Davion Mitchell, keep Nikola Jovic because I think he still can be special. Figure out how to use him. But yeah, like the young guys are fine. And I think the Heat are fine, if you will.
So as we close, what are your expectations for this season? We are banged up. We can like at one point we could be up by 50 and then still lose the game or vice versa. So what do you like? How should we close out? I know it's a little bit too far to tank, To be honest, it really comes down to the Warriors at the same time. The picks are going up and down, changing spots. So, what are your expectations for the rest of the season?
If
I
they
just
can,
don't want to go to the play-in, go to the first round, and then lose to the Boston Celtics. I just think that's pointless. That's just me.
yeah.
That's just me. But they should have tanked after Jimmy. That's just me. They're not winning a
Mhm.
championship this year. If you're not winning a championship, I don't want to go to the playoffs for experience just so that we can lose to the Boston Celtics. That's just me. But it is what it is.
I know that the Heat at least are one of the teams that they're like, all right, look, they have now at least said I've got like I've got my mold for my build. You know what I'm saying? Like I know that Tyler's gonna be my number one. I hate that idea, but whatever. I know that Bam's gonna be there to like anchor the defense, give us buckets, all that stuff. Wiggins, Davion, Khalil, so on and so forth. So if you go to the playoffs, at the bare minimum, at least you can like go into a matchup that you're probably knowing you're not gonna win and say, all right, we're gonna throw out what we think will work. And if it works, great, fine, fantastic. Like let's make a run and see what happens. But if not, at least we know like we have something to gauge and be like, all right, this isn't gonna work, this isn't gonna work, this can stay, this can go, and so on and so forth. Like for an expectation for this team, they're a playing team if they even get there, because they're kind of having trouble right now. Obviously, I'm sure a 20-point win last night against the Wizards helps, but they struggle against the top teams in the NBA. They struggle to score and defend against some of the middling teams of the NBA. And unless you're actively trying to tank, like this is not a team that is like gonna just kind of put you away. So they're gonna have to figure something out and like offensively and like find a little bit of stride. And obviously it's hard because you don't have guys that are you got guys that are in and out of the lineup. You got important pieces that are fixing to miss a month. Ain't no telling what just happened with Ware. You hope he's gonna be okay, God willing. But um, I don't have high expectations. It's just I want to be done with the season. Like I'm sure you get this too because you do a lot of content with everybody else. This is tiresome. Not to say that I don't enjoy doing any of this. Like I love, interacting with fans. I love interacting with the like Heat content and stuff like that. But when you're not winning, it's not nearly as fun. So let's just get it over with. Whatever happens, happens. But like it's like you said, they're not winning no championship. They're not making it this there's no Jimmy here to drag us to the finals from the 8 seed. So um try to build good habits, try to figure out which guys you're going to keep, which guys you're going to get rid of, and get ready for the next actual rendition of the Miami Heat because this is just like the first format of the egg, of the new build, of the Tyler and Bam build, if you will.
Yeah, now that's what Miami Heat fans have to realize. Sometimes you have to lose to win. That's how we got guys like Dwayne Wade and Beasley, and the list goes on. Sometimes you have to lose. Sometimes you have to take a step back. But the issue is like when the Miami Heat, when they don't fully take that step back and they kind of want to half-ass because they want to sell tickets or whatever it might be, you're kind of really just not really benefiting the franchise because, like I
Right.
said, we are going to need first-round picks whether we're trading them, whether we're trying to get it through the draft. I think that the Miami Heat have done a great job through the draft. It's just these are the birth pains of a better future, and that's what a lot of Miami Heat fans have to realize. And Ray, once again, thank you for coming on the show. Please let the people know where can they find you, pre-game, post-game, halftime, and all that.
Again, find us at Playbook SN and Playbook SN Bets if you like to gamble. We do pregame shows, postgame shows, halftime shows. We try to at least do like 2 out of the 3 every game day, but life happens. And again, it's a little bit more difficult when they don't win, but we at least always try to do postgame for everybody because we understand how miserable it is to watch this Miami Heat at times. But also, it's fun to celebrate when they do win and they do special stuff. Like, also, congratulations to Bam Adebayo for passing Ronnie Cycli last night for the all-time franchise leader as our double-doubles king. As you can tell in the corner, I got it. He is the double-double king. So it's exciting when that type of stuff happens. And you guys will always have a space to be able to come and talk about it. Martell comes in from time to time. He hangs out with us. And we hope to see you guys as well. So look for the Heat cap up at the top if you follow at Playbook SN or myself. And yeah, I appreciate you letting me come on, man. It's been fun.
Guys, if you want to crash out, make sure that you guys go join his spaces, venting, or if you guys just want to listen, guys, they have great content over there. Make sure that you guys check them out. And we are pushing to 6,000 subscribers. Make sure that you guys like, share, comment, support, and thank you for all the support.